Hi everyone, welcome back and thanks for being here and hanging out and talking about neat interior design things. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how light affects color. And so we're going to be talking about color temperature and artificial lighting and natural light. And then of course, bringing it all together to think about how we can keep that in mind when we are decorating and using color in our spaces. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'd love to have you hang out and join me on this design process to kind of find out more about how light affects color. So stay tuned. So the first type of light that we're going to be talking about is artificial light. And we don't really probably even notice this every day, but there's a color to every type of light, every type of light bulb. And it really is the light bulb that's giving us a color, but really what it's referring to is the temperature of the light and whether that's a warm light or a cool light. And they have a scale called a Kelvin temperature scale that gives us the ranges of, warmer lights that lean towards more yellowy part of the range, and then cooler lights that lend itself towards more of a blue range. And the cool thing about that is that this is going to affect how a color will look. So like in this example, there are 3 different light bulbs in these recessed light fixtures. And we know that that paint color, they didn't change the paint color. The paint color is the same. It's probably kind of like a beige tan color. But because of the light bulb that's in there, it's changing, our perception of that color. So we're seeing a more yellowy tone on the right, but then a more neutral in the middle, and then a more bluish tone on the left. And it's really kind of cool if you think about it, that just it gives this like layer of color to whatever it is that it's, shining on. So when you're out and about and, looking for light bulbs, the cool thing here in the United States is that we can see on the package of the light bulb what that temperature is going to be of the light bulb, whether it's going to lean towards more of a warmy tone or more towards a cooler tone or something in between where it's kind of, maybe a more neutral white. So that's a cool thing. So when you're out and about and you need to buy light bulbs for whatever type of fixture, you can, kind of decide, what look and feel that you want for that light. So if you think about it, during the day, we're just mostly using day lighting. But then at night, we turn on our artificial lights. And, depending on the light bulbs, it's going to have, maybe a cooler, more neutral tone, or maybe it'll be on the, warmer and more yellowy, spectrum of that scale. So depending on, what type of light bulb you're using and what type of light fixture you have, that's going to affect, any colors that you have in that room, and which is super exciting. So to take a look at really how light can affect color, I did a little experiment to start out with a yellow color, and then I put it under different types of lighting. And I did this in my video called Why Does My Paint Color Look Different from How It Looked in the Store? And I'll put the link in the video. But I shared how I started out with a pink tone, but then how it changed depending on the color of the light that it was under. So the same thing I did with these yellow colors. The first one on the left is under a more warm light. The second one is under a more neutral tone, and then the third one is more under a cooler light. So just to give you an idea, it's the same color. These aren't different, swatches of color. It's one yellow color, but just depending on the lighting, it really, can change because of the color temperature of the light bulb. And then the other type of light that we have is natural light. And natural light, just like artificial light, can vary. And, it can vary in the morning and then change again even in the evening before we turn on artificial lighting. And in the morning, it's more in like a cooler tone. And then throughout the day, it changes to more neutral, and then later in the day to more warm tones. And this is, if we have a beautiful, perfect sunny sky day. And then, of course, the lighting, the light color, the temperature of that color may change depending on if it's a cloudy day or if it's a rainy day or if you have snow outside. That's going to affect, how the lighting in your place looks during like a snowy day. And natural light also varies throughout the seasons. Artists many times like to have their art studio in a room that has north light. So, windows that are facing north because that light is more stable. It doesn't change as much throughout the seasons. Whereas if you have a room on the south side, the light you'll notice through the seasons changes. Like in the winter, it's much lower and it shines through that room and gives it this nice warm glow. But then in the summer, the sun is higher up in the sky and we have less light in there. So throughout the seasons, throughout the day, natural light varies. But it always will affect, how colors will look in your place. And that's the cool thing about color. When you paint a wall a color, in the day, maybe the sun shines on part of it, but maybe some other parts are in a shaded area. And the cool thing about having it change again at night when you add artificial light, it's almost like this living thing where, you kind of appreciate that, a white wall will actually kind of change throughout the day. And that's super exciting. And it makes our rooms kind of not feel flat. And if you play with, the temperature of light with your artificial light, and then how much light you have in your room throughout the day, and what kind of feeling you want, that will create a really cool look for your place. And then another thing to think about is, where do you live? Do you live in a very urban, densely populated area, or do you live out in the country or out in the desert or out in the mountains or by the ocean? And naturally, all of the light that you have in your environment is going to affect your colors in your place. So, there may be subtle changes, but say you and your friend, one friend lives in New York City and then you live in Seattle and you are using the same paint color. Well, it's going to look a little different in each of your places just because you have different lighting situations. And so, just kind of remembering that, if you see a cool color like at a television show or, in a magazine, because that's in a different situation, you may want to try it out in your place first and kind of live with it because it's going to feel and look a little bit different at your place. So, how to bring all this together when we're just talking about interior design and, where we live and, what to think about when we're thinking about color and light in our place. And one thing I would keep in mind is just remembering that, light will change throughout the day, whether it's just natural lighting and, maybe in the morning it's super sunny, but by the afternoon it's raining. The light in your room will change. And of course, at night when you turn on your lamps, it's going to change, the color tones in that room when that happens. And so kind of embracing that, color is going to change throughout the day and throughout the seasons. And it's kind of this cool thing because of that. And then what I would do, especially if I were to, plan on, buying a bunch of new carpet or painting a big room or even redoing a bathroom with new tile or a kitchen with new tile and a countertop, I would kind of want to bring some samples home because I would want to see, how those colors interact with my lighting at my home. Because when you go shopping, when you go to the paint store or you go to the furniture store, the lighting there is going to be probably very neutral, very, white light and trying to represent the colors as well as possible. But there's, it's going to be different than your lighting at your place. And so what I would do is, get a small sample of paint and paint, an area of a wall and live with that for a day or two. And really what it's about is not making a mistake, but it's really just kind of like getting to know that color and like, oh, okay, that's how it's going to look and feel. And then of course, if you needed to make adjustments, you can do that without, losing a bunch of money buying a big gallon of paint. And same thing like with carpet, if you just have, can you borrow some samples for a day just to kind of take a look with the carpet and the paint and a tile and kind of take a look and see how all that's going to look in your environment. So that's what I would kind of recommend doing just in your home to kind of know, how all that's going to look under the lighting conditions that you have. And then you'll be, happier with the results. So I hope you enjoyed this video about how light affects color and keeping that in mind when we're using color in our spaces. And if you enjoy this video, please press the like button and please subscribe because then you'll be notified when I have new videos available. And then if you're interested, I have a quick little fun design exercise that you can do to kind of become more familiar with light and color. So stay tuned. So a fun little exercise that you can try out doing to see, how light changes throughout the day and how it affects color is to kind of watch what happens to the light of a building or just inside your place. So like if you were going to look at a building across the street and take a look in the morning to see what the building looks like, and then check it out later in the afternoon. Even take a photograph of it, which might be kind of fun. You can compare photos and then take another look at it at night with the artificial lighting. The brick is not changing any color, but what's happening is the light is changing color. Or you can do this in your place and take a look at a wall where you have, natural light coming in the morning and, seeing if by the afternoon, maybe you have less natural light coming in, and that's going to affect how that wall color looks. And then at night, when you turn on a lamp, how does that change all of the color in the room? And just take a notice of that. And if you want, please share, what you find out in the comments.